I greet you in Jesus' precious name. It's good to be with you again on the program. I want to ask you a question. Where does your education come from? Where does your supernatural knowledge come from? It can only come from God. We can study as much as we like. I know I've done a bit of studying myself. But at the end of the day, that supernatural knowledge and wisdom comes from God. Remember Solomon, the wisest man that has ever lived. When he had that dream, and the Lord said to him in the dream, you can ask whatever you like and I'll give it to you. He says, I want wisdom to be able to govern my people properly. And the Lord said, because you ask correctly and not for yourself, I'm going to give you everything else as well. He became the richest man in the world. And he had more wisdom. I mean, the Queen of Sheba came all the way from Ethiopia to sit under his teaching. And she said afterwards, it's much more than I ever dreamt of. I want to say to you today, just ask the Lord to give you that wisdom, and he'll do it. Now we go to the book of Matthew, chapter 13, and I'm going to read verse 54. When he had come to his own country, he taught them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished, folks, astonished, and they said, where did this man get this wisdom and these mighty works? Where did he get it from? Well, he got it from his Father, didn't he? And how many times have I read of men of God who have been used of the Lord mightily, who have had a limited education? What do they say? They say educators complicate and communicators simplify. I'll say that again. Educators complicate, but communicators simplify. It's a gift to be able to teach somebody. You know, Abraham Lincoln is regarded by many Americans as the greatest of all the American presidents. And he had a very limited education. Very limited. Just a couple of years. You know, he's the man that said, when they said, if you had 6 hours to chop down that massive cedar tree there, how would you go about it? He said, I would spend 4 hours sharpening the axe and then 2 hours to cut the tree down. Now, many of us would just start hacking away because you're concerned you've only got 6 hours. And of course, if you ever try and cut anything with a blunt axe, there's nothing more painful because it doesn't work. The same man standing in the Oval Office, looking out that window with all his senators. Now remember, Abraham Lincoln was always for the poor. He came from a very poor background himself, from Kentucky, a farmer's son. He saw this street sweeper sweeping the leaves, and he looked out the window and he said, that man will never amount to anything. They were horrified. How can he say that? It's not his fault that he's poor and he can only sweep the streets. And they said, Mr. President, how can you say a thing like that? He said, have a look at him. He's sweeping the leaves against the wind. Folks, it's that kind of wisdom that comes from the Lord. I want to tell you right now, it is amazing. You know, there was a man by the name of Robert Turner. He's the guy that invented all these big earth-moving machines. He had a standard 3 education. When he really got big, massive, he was a huge businessman, a full-on Christian. Gave 90% of his income to the Lord's work and kept 10%. He'd walk into a boardroom and all the electrical engineers and mechanical engineers were trying to work out how they're going to design this new machine, and he'd just walk up and say, put that there and do that, and he'd walk out and they'd stand with their mouths wide open. How can he do that? He was a man of God. Today, put your trust in the Lord. Spend time in the Word, and He'll give you that knowledge you need. Jesus bless you and goodbye.